Well, our rear suspension's done. It's time to dive into the front suspension. Stick around. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage, and today we are diving into our QA1 Stage 2 handling front suspension. We did the rear with the trailing arms, the adjustable uppers, the frame braces, all that jazz. Still haven't done the sway bars. We're going to save that for last and do the front and rear sway bars at the same time. On top of that, went ahead and replaced all the brake lines in the car with new brake lines. Ran into a problem though. I can't get to the master cylinder right now because with the car jacked up, it puts the doors in a bind. So we need to get the suspension on so we can go ahead, throw the tires into the car, pull it down, and then swap out the master cylinder and get the brakes all plumbed up and stuff like that. Keep our fingers crossed that nothing leaks, because you know how that goes. We literally are replacing everything. Hopefully with new fittings though, it means it won't leak. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into our front suspension. I've already stripped everything except for the front sway bar. I'll get that here in a second, off of the car. Now, let me tell you, as a heads up, go ahead and order up some new bolts. Now, I don't know that you'll need lower bolts or the A-arm bolts. I went ahead and ordered them. In fact, these are lower control arm bolts, lower trailing arm. I definitely don't need lower trailing arms because we've already got those installed. But the upper control arm that goes through the upper front control arms, they're knurled. There's a good chance if they're old, you're going to strip these things out. The hardware is going to be junk. Go ahead and get a set of upper A-arm bolts, and they will come in knurled. Don't use the nut to pull these things down and try to seat them. If you do that, you're just going to strip it out, but honestly, they're probably going to be stripped out by the time you get the old upper A-arms out anyway. So that's my first tip. Second tip, I don't have a second tip, but let's just go ahead and take a look at these arms. I don't know if these are the uppers or the lowers. I'm guessing since this is the big box, it's the lowers. Everything is so nicely packed in here. And we got two, and they're labeled driver left, passenger right. So there's the new hardware for it. So as I said, these come with new hardware, but I'm pretty sure, we'll see in a second, that the uppers do not come with new hardware. Now, it also comes with the spherical adapters for the lower part of the shocks. That's good to know, because the shocks, the coil-overs, come with the T-bar for using the factory suspension. But since we're going over to this, it does not use a T-bar. It actually has a pocket that everything bolts down into. And actually, yeah, let's do the passenger. Only want to open up one of these because I don't want to get them mixed up. Okay, so here's our new lower control arm. Nice ball joint on there. Bump stop is integral. We'll be taking the factory bump stop off the frame. We don't need it. And then it said, here's the pocket that lower spherical goes into with the coilover. Other than that, straightforward. It bolts right into place. Let's go. Hole here for our sway bar mounts. Our end links will go on there. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, whenever you're doing the uppers and taking the old uppers out, save your spacers and put them kind of where they were. So back on the firewall, I have the rear spacers. Then up front here, I have the front spacers for the upper A-arms. Now, it's not going to be what it is whenever everything's dialed in, but it will get you close enough to get down the road and go down to your alignment shop. Don't think you can install this into a garage alignment. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to set up an appointment, get it aligned if you don't want to absolutely scrub off your wheels. Oh, my shoulders are killing me. I should have pulled the other one out first. Oops, well, there goes that. So, we've got washers that come with the uppers, pins, stuff like that. There are specific orders in which you have to push these washers in whenever you're installing these uppers to make sure that you don't damage both, well, basically the upper, the aluminum crossbar on there. You don't want that sitting directly against the metal of the frame. So keep that in mind. And let's open this up. Take a look at it. And straightforward. So you can see, here's our crossbar. I don't know if I can manually twist that. We got a bump stop on there, and we got a ball joint. Nice thing, easy to access Zerks. You'll want to go ahead and probably add some grease onto this before you take it for a spin. There are instructions, even though it's pretty straightforward. One of the things that you'll want to take notice of is on the last page. Here we go. It'll have alignment settings. Take these down to your alignment shop, because if they bring this thing in and set it to what the factory alignment list, it's going to be messed up. And so it has different A bodies, X bodies, F bodies, B bodies, G bodies, all that stuff. So make sure that they're setting it up to this specific one. Both the uppers and the lowers will include those numbers. Here you can see everything's gone. We've got our new brake lines up in there. We're going to take that bump stop off right here, and then we're just going to bolt everything up into place, and then we'll talk about the spindles once the A-arms are bolted up in the frame. Holy crap, let me tell you, that was a beast. So the frame mounts were just too tight. I'd take a giant crescent, put it on the lips, and hammer those things open. I mean, to the point where the front one wouldn't even begin to go. The back one would go because it's beveled along the edge there, but I still had to spread it out to get those in. Man, that'll wear a guy out.
My people in the river, singing songs about their old town homes, washing off the dirt that they carried with them for so very long. You know I feel it when it hurts. Every time I get so tongue-tied, tongue-tied. Every moment I'll just get worse. I'll just get worse. I took a blanket to the fire, tears wrapped up in the drinks and smoke. every little story hurt, but there's beauty in.
Okay, so we've got the coilover in. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the top side, but basically on the rod it'll be a bushing. Actually, it'll be the washer, bushing, stick it through, bushing, washer, nut, and then lock nut. But I want to leave it kind of loose right now. I don't have a lock nut on it. That way I can have some flexibility whenever I bring up the lower control arm to make contact with it. So should have enough swing on the upper that whenever it comes time to install the spindle, we can kind of smash everything together and make it work. Well, I will say I had absolutely no problem getting the spindle in there. I haven't tightened down the nuts on it yet because I want to go in and raise up the collar before everything gets too bound up. Interesting enough, these spindles use the crossover from the factory spindle, so I need to move those over, but these are the Willwood AFXs. Said they've got a 2-inch drop built into them. With coilovers, we should be able to get this front end as low as we want, but man, that's looking stud. Can't wait to get the ginormous disc brakes on the front. Okay, there it is all together. You see where I got the steering arm, the factory steering arm moved over to the spindle. Just gotta get the steering rod brought up into place and bolted up, and then she's ready for the disc brakes, you know, which will be pretty quick. It'll be a bearing, a caliper, retainer nut, and then our bearing, rotor, retainer nut, then the caliper and brakes, and tie the line in. So, well, I want to give a huge shout out to QA1 again for hooking us up with all this gear. I'm excited to see how this thing does. As I said, the suspension is world class, and we're throwing the biggest disc brakes that I can on this thing. Luckily, we already had 18-inch wheels, which were required to clear the calipers and rotors on this thing. But I'm going to have one more video in this series as we go through and do the sway bars, because the sway bar is a little bit unique in that they can be installed on factory control arms and stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to do the sway bars with all the stuff that we've done in this video and the previous one where we did the rear suspension. So keep that in mind. That's why I want to break that out. Now, this is maybe for an A body, but it's going to be a lot of the same stuff on G bodies, B bodies, F bodies, and X bodies, specifically the front stuff. Obviously, the rear is a little bit different. Some of them are leaf springs, some of them are going to be the setup with the trailing arms like this is, but to give you an idea of how simple a lot of this is. Focus. Focus. So, hopefully you'll get some use out of this. It's not a bad project if you're doing this by yourself, though. I'm going to say probably 2 full days. So I'm on my 3rd day, but the first 2 days I only put in about 4 hours or so. And honestly, if you don't have to redo the brake lines, that's going to save you half a day. Maybe 3 if you're doing the brakes like I am, because I'm going to still have to do the master cylinder and get the lines up to the distribution block and all that fun jazz. So I got quite a bit left. I was hoping to have it done today, but I'm just working on getting the suspension done today so I can get the car back on the ground. Not only can I get on the ground, get an idea of what the stance is looking like and make the adjustments whenever I put it back up in the air to do the sway bars and stuff, but I gotta get the doors open so I can get in there and disconnect the brake pedal, you know. But that's going to be it for now. As usual, thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning.